Marc Marquez's impossible elbow save. There are saves. And then there is this. Valencia 2017 wasn't supposed to be dramatic. Marquez only needed a clean race to seal another championship, but he never rides clean. He rides like gravity is optional. And on lap 1, turn 1, he showed the world that physics is just a suggestion to him. Marquez leaned into the corner at 66 degrees, far past the point where the front tire normally gives up. The bike snapped. The front folded instantly. Any other rider's race ends right there. A guaranteed crash, a guaranteed slide into the gravel. But Marquez didn't react like a mortal. He reacted like someone who refuses to let the laws of motion decide his fate. In that half second between disaster and miracle, he dropped his elbow into the asphalt and used it like a mechanical jackstand. The entire weight of the RC213V, 160 kilograms of metal, fuel, and fury scraped across his elbow pad. While the bike skidded sideways, dust exploded off the track. His knee buckled. His front tire vibrated so violently that even the onboard camera couldn't keep focus. Then came the moment that still breaks slow motion replays. Marquez pushed the bike back up while it was sliding. Not with handlebars, not with throttle, but with his elbow. The tire gripped again like it had changed its mind about crashing. The bike snapped upright. Marquez continued accelerating as if nothing happened. In the Repsol garage, mechanics screamed like they'd seen a ghost. Even rival teams stared at the screens in disbelief. There are riders who save crashes. There are riders who lose the front and somehow escape. But a rider who rescues the front wheel after full collapse, picks a 160-kilogram bike back up using only his elbow, and keeps racing in a championship decider, that is not human. That is 1 in a million. That is Marc Marquez. Pecco Bagnaia gets run over and survives. What happened to Pecco Bagnaia in Barcelona 2023 is the kind of incident you only expect to see in brutal racing documentaries from the 1970s, not in the modern, ultra-safe MotoGP era. At turn 2 on lap 1, Bagnaia high-sided cruelly. His Ducati spat him into the sky. He slammed into the tarmac with the full weight of the crash, flipping him onto the racing line. He wasn't sliding off to safety. He was lying directly where 20 riders were accelerating full throttle. And then came the impact. Brad Binder had no chance to avoid him. At over 200 kilometers per hour, Binder's KTM ran straight over Bagnaia's back. Not brushed, not grazed, full contact. A MotoGP wheel climbed over his spine and launched into the air like it had hit a ramp. Every single person watching held their breath. Commentators went silent. Fans in the stands covered their faces. This was the kind of accident that historically ends careers or lives, and yet Pecco moved. He sat up. He was conscious. He was talking. Doctors on the track couldn't believe what they were seeing. His injuries, severe bruising, no broken bones, no spinal damage, nothing that medically matched the violence of what happened. Biomechanics experts later said the margin for survival was microscopic. MotoGP has seen many brutal crashes, but this one sits in a different category. A top-speed strike to the spine from a MotoGP bike, and the rider walks away within minutes? This was a statistical miracle captured on live TV, a 1 in a million escape that fans still replay with disbelief. Brad Binder wins on slicks in a storm. Even MotoGP veterans struggle to describe what happened in Austria 2021. This wasn't a race. It was a gamble against nature. And Brad Binder bet everything he had on a decision that no sane rider should ever make. With 7 laps to go, the skies over Spielberg opened violently. Rain hit the track so hard it looked like fog. Standing water formed instantly. Riders began sliding at walking speed. One by one, every front runner peeled into the pits for wet tires. It wasn't strategy. It was survival. Except for one man. Binder stayed out. On slick tires. In pouring rain. The first lap after the storm hit looked like a misunderstanding. He could barely brake. He couldn't lean. He tiptoed around corners at bicycle angles. His bike squirmed like a wild animal. Every corner looked like a guaranteed crash. But the miracle wasn't that he stayed upright. The miracle was that he stayed ahead. As the wet tire riders carved through the field, Binder should have been swallowed instantly. Instead, he kept enough pace, barely, to hold on to the lead. On the final 2 laps, Binder wasn't racing. He was surviving. He slid off the track twice. He nearly high-sided 3 times. His bike ran wide onto the green paint repeatedly. Yet, he kept picking it back up. The RC16 crossed the line with its engine steaming and brakes ruined. Binder's gloves were soaked. His tires were destroyed. His visor was smeared with rain. But he was a MotoGP winner. Fans still call it the most insane strategic decision ever made in the sport. It wasn't luck. It wasn't skill alone. It was a moment too reckless, too precise, too miraculous to ever be repeated. A pure 1 in a million victory. Rossi's dirt pass on Stoner at the corkscrew. Some overtakes become highlights. Some become memes. This one became religion. Laguna Seca 2008. Valentino Rossi versus Casey Stoner. 2 world champions locked in a duel that still defines an era. The corkscrew is MotoGP's most terrifying corner. Blind left, blind right, downhill drop. You don't overtake there. You don't attack there. No rider had ever successfully completed a clean move at that exact point. But Rossi wasn't like other riders. On lap 4, he sized Stoner up. He didn't have the acceleration. He didn't have the straight line advantage. So he created a line that didn't exist. Rossi dove inside Stoner, both wheels skidding, and blew past the apex. The Yamaha left the asphalt entirely. Not partially, completely. He rocketed over the curb, bounced into the dirt, slid sideways down the hill, rooster tail of dust exploding behind him, and somehow rejoined the track still ahead. The crowd lost its mind. Stoner sat up for a split second in disbelief. Commentators screamed over each other. It was illegal. It was legal. It was impossible. It was unforgettable. Even Stoner said afterward, it wasn't on. Meaning, this move didn't exist in any racing handbook. But Rossi made it real. He made it MotoGP canon. That pass wasn't just an overtake. It was the exact moment MotoGP crossed from sport into mythology. There will never be another corkscrew move like it, because no rider will ever find that combination of madness, precision, and pure instinct again. A perfect once-in-a-million execution. Miguel Oliveira's last corner robbery. Every MotoGP fan has seen last lap battles. 2 riders, 1 corner, 1 shot. But Styria 2020 wasn't a battle. It was a Kane beautifully timed, mathematically impossible heist pulled by the calmest man on the grid. 2 riders, Jack Miller and Paul Espargaro, were fighting like rabid wolves for victory, bodywork shaking, tires screaming, both diving into the final corner, knowing only one of them could win. Their duel was so intense that neither of them noticed the silent assassin right behind them, Miguel Oliveira. The Portuguese rider wasn't trying to force a move. He wasn't lunging. He was waiting. When Miller attacked Pole into turn 10, both went wide. Just a fraction, but enough. And in MotoGP, half a meter is a canyon. Oliveira saw that gap open the way snipers see a heartbeat. Precise, tiny, and perfect. He tightened his line, hugged the inside curb, and slid through the gap between 2 factory bikes like he had been planning it for 20 laps. The commentators exploded. The Tech 3 garage erupted into screaming disbelief. Miller and Paul didn't even know they'd lost until the finish line. Oliveira didn't win by pace. He didn't win by luck. He won by performing a strategic miracle, a moment where timing, chaos, and courage aligned into one perfect frame. After the race, he simply said, I just took my opportunity. He didn't take it. He stole it. A once-in-a-million theft executed with monk-like calm. Andrea Iannone hits a seagull at 300 kilometers per hour. Phillip Island is famous for its scenery. The ocean, the cliffs, the sweeping corners. But in 2015, it became famous for something else entirely. The moment Andrea Iannone hit a seagull at over 300 kilometers per hour, it happened on lap 2, turn 10. One of the fastest points on the entire MotoGP calendar. Iannone tucked in behind Jorge Lorenzo, chasing the slipstream. Everything was normal. 2 top-tier riders flying at impossible speed. And then, in the corner of the camera frame, you see it. A lonely seagull sitting on the apex like it owned the track Lorenzo flew past and disturbed it. The bird panicked and launched itself upward, directly into the path of Iannone's Ducati. And then came the impact. The seagull hit Iannone's winglet with the force of a sledgehammer. Feathers exploded like a pillow being torn open. Iannone's head snapped backward, visor cracking from the blow. His entire body jolted as if punched by an invisible heavyweight boxer. Incredibly, he didn't crash. He didn't even wobble. He just kept racing, flat out, as if birds flying into motorcycles at 300 kilometers per hour was normal. After the race, Iannone joked that the seagull chose the wrong rider. But fans still bring up that moment because it's a freak combination of speed, timing, timing, wildlife, and pure luck. No rider before or after has collided with a bird at full MotoGP velocity and stayed on the bike without losing control. A once-ever happening in a place where the only thing more dangerous than horsepower is nature reminding you it still exists. Jorge Lorenzo races 48 hours after collarbone surgery. If there's ever been a moment where a MotoGP rider felt more like a superhero than a human, it was Jorge Lorenzo at Assen 2013 Thursday. He crashes in the rain during practice and shatters his left collarbone into several pieces. The pain is so violent, he can barely breathe. MotoGP's medical team declares him unfit to race. 99% of riders would end their weekend there. Lorenzo, he charters a private jet to Barcelona that night. Friday, he undergoes emergency surgery. Doctors insert a titanium plate and 8 screws into his shoulder. A normal athlete would be expected to recover for 6 to 8 weeks. MotoGP riders would usually miss at least 2 races. Lorenzo boards another jet immediately after surgery and flies back to Assen the same day. Saturday morning, he walks into the paddock with his arm swollen, stitched, and barely mobile. He asks for clearance to race. Doctors look at him like he's insane, but his vitals are stable. They approve him. Sunday, Jorge Lorenzo does the unthinkable. He races a 260 horsepower MotoGP bike using a shoulder held together by metal and anesthesia. Every lap is agony. The force of braking alone should have ripped the plate off the bone. And yet, he finishes 5th, a top 5 finish less than 48 hours after surgery that would sideline a normal person for months. Fans call it courage. Teams call it madness. Doctors call it impossible. This isn't toughness. This is MotoGP's 1 in a million DNA. Pain is temporary. Legacy is forever. Fabio Quartararo finishes with his leathers wide open. MotoGP's speeds are so high that riders wear suits specifically designed to survive sliding at 300 kilometers per hour. They're engineered to never open, not even under violent crashes. That's why Catalunya 2021 became one of the most bizarre and dangerous moments ever caught on camera. With 5 laps to go, Fabio Quartararo's chest zipper suddenly bursts open at full speed. His racing suit flaps wide. His chest protector ejects and flies into the air behind him. And suddenly, the world sees Fabio racing with his torso exposed to 350 kilometers per hour. Wind blast. The first reaction wasn't disbelief. It was fear. One wrong gust of air could have ripped the suit fully open. One stone thrown from a tire could have pierced his ribs. And if Fabio crashed like that, the consequences don't bear thinking about. But Quartararo kept pushing. He didn't slow down. He didn't pit. He attacked corners while holding his suit with his left hand. He overtook riders with his entire upper body exposed like a man racing in a wind tunnel with no protection. Commentators went speechless. Social media exploded. Riders watching from pit wall screamed at the screens. And when he crossed the finish line, everyone had the same thought. How did he survive that? MotoGP had never seen a suit open at that speed before, has never seen it since, and likely never will again, because the incident triggered immediate safety rule changes. A perfect example of MotoGP chaos. One glitch in the zipper, one rider refusing to give up, one moment etched into history forever. Pedro Acosta wins from pit lane. There are great rookie performances. There are miracle performances. And then there's what Pedro Acosta did in Doha 2021. Something so absurd that even MotoGP veterans still shake their heads when they watch the replay. Acosta was forced to start from pit lane, which is essentially a death sentence. You start seconds behind the entire pack. You lose the draft. You lose track position. You lose hope. But this wasn't a normal rookie. This was Pedro Acosta, the shark of Moto3. When the lights went out, Acosta didn't chase the pack. He hunted it. He rode the opening laps like a man possessed, slicing through back markers as if they weren't even there. His overtakes were so clean, so decisive, so fearless that it looked like he was playing a different video game from everyone else. Halfway through the race, he'd already reached the front group. Commentators were stunned. Veterans couldn't believe their eyes. A rookie, in his second race ever, catching the leading train from pit lane? Impossible. But he didn't stop there. With 4 laps to go, Acosta attacked the slipstream war at the front, switching lines with instinct that riders take years to learn. He crossed the finish line first, arms raised, as if destiny was following him instead of the other way around. It wasn't a lucky race. It wasn't weather. It wasn't chaos. It was pure talent, rewriting what's possible. A once-in-a-million rookie moment so unreal that it instantly became MotoGP folklore.